Hello, dear friends, family. This is Lev Nelik Am Haaretz, doing my weekly trailer on the class Midos. As you can see, I'm dressed casual today. We're all on lockdown here in Israel. This virus, so spend a lot of time at home. So most people in that situation, even in other countries in America, and I noticed that I was able to, in the last week or so, spoke a lot more with our kids and grandkids and friends and my relatives here in America than I spoke probably with them in the last couple of years. Rediscover the ties of the family ties, so to speak. So it's a kind of side benefit, I guess. But the topic of this trailer today is virus, Torah, and economy, specifically with agriculture. Now, why is that? I spoke to my friend Victor, my good friend, that we went to school together in Russia. We learned Russian Soviet economy those days. And the question we kind of touched on is disasters in the past were localized. Hurricane there, tsunami here, and something, but it's somewhere else, not affecting me too much. But now the whole world is affected. The whole world is affected. Nobody's spared. Why is that intensity? It changes so much. Nowhere to run, so to speak. Well, of course, many people believe, as I do, that everything happens for the reason. And Hashem sends us the good things for the good and the bad things for the good too. We don't know why, but we know there's a reason. So perhaps Victor told me this message by the virus is to slow down. Don't go outside. Don't work so much. Reevaluate your life. Well, if I reevaluate my life and I spend more time with the family and I study some Torah and I will not work for 14 hours a week, 14 hours a day, trying to make more money, another deal, another good thing, another something, then will I be able to survive? So I spoke to my son. He says, listen, if I today decide to go to the synagogue for lectures and Shachrit, Minyan, Arvit, I won't have the time left to work. Because I said, well, why do you need to work so much? Well, he says, well, even if I didn't, I have to have a mortgage to pay for the school for the kids, and I just go bankrupt if I don't. It's a vicious circle. Can't get out of it. So he said, if one person just say, okay, I changed my life, review my life completely, slow down, quality time, go for a walk, but the mortgage is still $2,000 a month, didn't go to 1,000, so I go bankrupt. What will happen, says Victor, if everybody will take that position? If everybody reduce their time to 4 hours work a day, for example, and the balance of the time to study Torah and to spend time with the family and go on the picnics sometimes and just take it a little bit easier, less pressure. Let's say everybody did it. But basic economics, that's where economics comes in. An average, let's say, American salary, $50,000, let's call it $50,000 a year, typical American family makes. Let's say pick that, without very rich and very poor, but let's make a simplified model. A farmer makes $50,000 a year, his family. A shoemaker does it, doctor does it. Let's say everybody in that boat. If everybody will change their lifestyle to this healthy lifestyle, so to speak, then everyone will be making only $25,000 instead of $50,000 because the wife is not working. The wife is at home. She's taking care of the children. Dinner is always ready. The house is clean. Wonderful harmony at home. But it's in every family. So if the loaf of bread was $2, now it's only $1. Everything gets proportionally half and everything balances. Well, everything balances. That's a good thing. So at least I wouldn't go bankrupt. The mortgage will be now $1,000, not $2,000. But what if I want to get more? I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I want to have a 4-bedroom house or maybe a bigger mansion. What I want to do is the same things that I have opportunities to have today by working harder, and not spending so much time on Torah and sacrificing the family a little bit. And what if in that instance, is it possible to still have a good life, in quotes, quality life in terms of even material things, and still do that only for a reduced amount of effort and work you do towards that? What if it's secondary to you? What's your primary? Just enjoy life, enjoy the family, enjoy God, enjoy a relationship with God, but still work, but not be a slave of your work, but do it as a secondary, if you will. You have to survive, but you don't have to survive for working 14 hours a day. Suppose you do that. Well, productivity will become a problem, because now I cannot produce as a farmer 10 bushels of wheat, but only 5 bushels of wheat. And if as shoemaker, I can produce only 5 pairs of shoes and not 10 pairs of shoes. So diversity, availability of diversity of things will reduce. Will it really actually reduce? So we'll go to Stone Age, just sitting a caveman with just one pair of animal skin, one pair of shoes, 2 spoons, a fork, and a plate, and that's it. Ascetic lifestyle, complete denial of any worldly pleasure, but sitting and studying Torah all day long, being in unity with Hashem, thank God, but sacrificing all our convenience. No running water, no television, no electricity, none of that. It doesn't have to be to this situation? No. And why? Virus, Torah. Torah said, Parashat Bechuchotai, chapter 26, if you follow my decrees and observe my commandments and perform them, then I will provide your rains in their time, and the land will give its produce, and the tree of the field will give its fruit. The Torah tells you, I'll take care of it. Well, how will Torah take care of that? Well, if you flip on the Deuteronomy, Parashat Eikev, it says that for the land, now this is a farmer, agriculture set of the discussion. The land to which you come to possess it, it is not like the land of Egypt. It's not like the land of America. It's not like the land of Australia or England or Europe. It is, or if you live in America and you take this attitude, that land in which you live also will become similar to that. And it says it is not like the land of Egypt that you left, where you would plant your seed and water it on foot like a vegetable garden. But the land to which you cross over to possess it is a land of mountains and valleys. From the rain of heaven it will drink water, the land that Hashem, your God, seek out. The eyes of Hashem, your God, are always upon it from the beginning of the year to year's end. And for that standpoint, you can say, if you look at the way the land used to be, remember this picture? The spies, they're carrying the fruits from the land. Look at the green pastures, wonderful landscape. It's not exactly like that in Israel right now. It's a green line towards western part of Israel, but most of it is desert. It wasn't like that before. It was all green. Look at these grapes. Huge. The pomegranates were the size of the head. So the productivity of the land was unusually fertile, with no chemicals, with no superphosphate, no fertilizer. It produced a lot. So from that standpoint, you can say, if the land was in that natural state, then when I only work for 4 hours instead of 8, I'll produce 10 bushels of grapes and 10 bushels of wheat instead of 2. Not because I work more, but because the productivity of the land with a blessing of Hashem will produce more fruit. And if that's the case, then my brother might become a construction supervisor, construction company, because he has time and we have money, because we produce bigger grapes, bigger fruits, better quality, we'll sell it to people who will pay us money for that. And my brother now goes to construction business. He builds a bigger house, nicer things. And my neighbor's sister might still continue interacting with my wife and other women to create the women's groups and discussion groups. A very interesting life. And the balance of the time that productivity of the land production allows us to do will allow to have a group of people that will be doing bigger buildings and bridges and televisions and telephone and technology. So all that still be possible by the virtue of increased productivity versus today, what we do, we reach the limit of productivity, so we add more chemicals. Now that spoils our fruits. It spoils our product, our quality of food. Tomatoes don't taste the same as they did 200 years ago. And also, even that comes to the limit. And then we'll push more and more and more, and we come to the point that the pushing is done, and then we have the situation where Hashem says, now it's time for the virus to remind you, you're doing too much. And then, of course, we say it every day. We say it every day. This is not a new news. It says, V'chaya im shemo'at tishmu el mitzvotai asher anachi mitzveh etcha hayom. And it will come to pass that if you continuously listen to my commandments that I command you today, to love Hashem, your God, and to serve Him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will provide rain to your land in its proper time, the early and late rains, that you may gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. I will provide grass to your field, to your cattle, to you, and you will eat and be satisfied. You will eat and will be satisfied. So not only we have to just say, well, somehow God will provide if we live a good life, godly life, but we're now even from basic economics, that's actually a much better, more productive way of doing things than the way we're doing today, chasing our own tail. And we learned that from Shema Israel, basic economics. So when we talk about next our video, Zoom meeting that Harold is setting up, we'll touch on that. Which midot, which character traits we have to develop in order to transit with this situation, which obviously is problematic, and the virus tells us, to the normal world, the way Hashem, the way Torah wants us to do. How do we make this transition? Well, today, all of a sudden, tomorrow, it's very difficult, I guess. Many say, we'll just make a change. Everybody makes a change. How do we make a change? It must be some kind of transitory time. So how to actually get to this point, we'll talk. Let's discuss it. But to envision the world, the ideal world, it's not so unrealistic. It's a world where people work, not they're lazy, they work, they perform, but they give time for the family, as we're having now. They have time for Torah studies and walks in the park. And productivity is taken care by God. So when the farmer comes back and the farmer plants something, a big grape, a big bananas, a big apples grow, and it's plenty for everybody. The earth has this capability. It wouldn't have this capability if we'll try to go away from the decrees and commandments Hashem gave us and rely on ourselves. We don't have the same power to get productivity up as Hashem does. He has infinite power. So, Harold, what do you think about that motif for our next discussion? I guess tomorrow we started to our meetings not only at 9 o'clock Sundays, but we're doing 9:30 on Zoom for the duration of this unfortunate situation. Some would say perhaps fortunate as a reminder to us. We'll discuss it, and people will say, I'm just hoping that it will pass and everything will be normal and normal. Well, before this virus, was everything normal before that? Was it normal? The world was normal? Is that the world supposed to be? Did we spend enough time with our families, quality time with our children? Or did we just try to just move, make more money to survive, make more money to pay for the daycare? And then we have to get kids to the daycare, so we have more time to make money to pay for the daycare. So it gives us a chance to kind of retrospect. And that's my simplistic view. Many things on the internet these days, you find the doomsday scenarios and non-doom scenarios, everybody talks about, but let's look at it from a standpoint of basic economics. The virus, Corona, Torah, and productivity, agriculture, how the whole things can make a lot of sense without necessarily just a holy mountain preaching that believe in God and everything will be fine. That's not a bad idea, by the way, but how to actually break it down to how to make it possible for somebody who perhaps not overly religious, overly zealous, and just believes so much that he can just tomorrow stop everything and become a a different person. Not easy to do for many people. So how can you present it to a rationally thinking person that the miracles can happen without just simply saying, believe it and else you'll be fine? How do we make this connection to people who don't think necessarily in these terms, who might not be as much close connection to God that maybe some others might? So how do you make this a more practical, dogmatic discussion? Dogmatic, wrong word. Pragmatic discussion. How do you make that discussion? And look forward to hear from you, Zohar. What do you say? And Victor, what do you say? Harold, and everybody else in our class. I like to discuss it. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. It all comes from there.